It's official, folks. July is the hottest month on record. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about the State Fair Parade. We're going to talk about how Governor Branstad, despite being up in the front of the State Fair Parade, doesn't mind being in the front of that line, doesn't want to be in the front of the line at the airport when it comes to TSA. We're going to talk about the Harbor of Hope mission. We're going to talk with Meeink and Kristian. Frank is the author of Autobiography of a Recovering Skinhead, and Kristian is the director of Is This Heaven? We'll be back in a few minutes on the Fallon Forum.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Najee's Mediterranean Grocery Store is a new business in the Drake neighborhood of Des Moines, featuring Middle Eastern products. Najee's offers a wide range of specialty foods at competitive prices, including hummus, falafel, tahini, pita bread, baklava, kosher, vegetarian foods, and Ethiopian injera bread. If you want to add unique ethnic flavors to your cooking, Najee's is the store for you. It's at 1133 42nd Street in Des Moines, just south of University Avenue. Stop by or call 255-3736 for more information. That's Najee's Mediterranean Grocery, 255-3736.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
What, you don't think you look great in a headset? I think you look fantastic in a headset, Kelly. Hey, before I introduce Kelly here, folks, I got to point out, July was indeed the warmest month on record. Hottest month on record. Let's call it hot. It's not just warm, it's downright hot. I'm so glad August is cooling off a bit, but the truth is, this year so far is the first 7 months of 2012 were the warmest recorded in U.S. history. Warmest, okay? And if you look at the, July tends to be the warmest month. 3 of the 5 warmest Julys ever were 2006, 2011, and 2012. Okay, I know there are still climate deniers out there. Frank, if you're tuning in, I'm talking about you. It's been, I mean, not this Frank, a different Frank. We're going to have Meeink later in the program. Not that Frank. You know, the folks at the National Climatic Data Center are saying that, in the past, you know, skeptics of global warming have, you know, tended to point to the Dust Bowl, hot, dry, crazy weather. But this is unprecedented. This is putting all the records in the Dust Bowl era out of touch. You know, we're rivaling those records and beating them consistently month after month. So, yeah, what are we going to do about it? Well, again, the insurance industry has figured it out. I've already talked about that repeatedly. Seed scientists have figured it out. Some farmers have figured it out. They're starting to design crops that can withstand drought, that can even recover from a devastating heat wave and bounce back. They're also designing critters, cattle, for example. We're going to talk more about this, hopefully get some of the folks from the NOAA on this show at some point. So you would hope that our political leaders would get on board. The insurance industry's on board. A lot of business and industry is on board. Of course, the oil companies will never be on board because they get rich not being on board. But we would hope that some of our congressional leaders are on board. But in the 3rd District, the choice between less and even less, Leonard Boswell and Tom Latham, there was an energy forum yesterday, and it was remarkable, astounding how much these two agreed on nearly everything. Now, the one thing, I had Senator Hogue on this program recently who was commending Leonard Boswell for his vote in favor of cap and trade. Now, I'm not a huge cap and trade fan, but it's something. It was some attempt to recognize that we've got to do something on the climate change issue. Boswell voted for that bill. So, you know, Hogue and others give him a pat on the back for that. Good. Well, at the Energy Forum yesterday, Boswell, and I'm quoting from the Des Moines Register, quote, downplayed his support for the measure, saying he voted for an early version of cap and trade, expecting that it would be changed later in the legislative process. So he's apologizing for the one good vote he took relevant to climate change. All right. He's also came out yesterday reiterating his support for the Keystone Pipeline and recognizing the centrality of oil, gas, and coal in the country's current energy infrastructure. Another good reason, folks, not to vote for Leonard Boswell. I mean, I'll say that. I'll say it over and over again. Don't throw your vote away. I'm not going to vote for Tom Latham, but you should not vote for Leonard Boswell. And again, here's why. Because when Latham wins that seat, as he almost certainly will, I mean, given the polling and the financial, the money coming into Latham's campaign versus Boswell, Latham's going to win. That sets the stage for a progressive Democrat, somebody, call it what you want, a Democrat that's actually not bought and paid for by corporate interests and is in touch with the people. It paves the way for that type of Democrat to have a shot. And for the record, it will absolutely not be me. You can count on that. Yeah, Governor Branstad, I saw him at the parade yesterday. I got to be one of the judges. I tried to be as fair and balanced as possible. In fact, I think I gave the Republican float a little bit higher score than the Democratic float because, frankly, it was a lot more interesting. But there was one float that got 0, and that is the anti-gay float. I'm disappointed that the fair even let an anti-gay float into the parade. But if you wanted to be had an anti-woman flavor, anti-black, anti-Muslim, that should not be allowed in the parade. And I thought an anti-gay float, yeah, that's going to get a 0 from me. Anyway, that was way in the back of the parade. In the front was Governor Branstad, who likes to lead parades, likes to kiss babies, that sort of thing. But he does not like to wait in line when it comes to the airport. And an astute reader pointed out in a recent letter to the editor that Branstad, has been speaking out against state employees receiving free health insurance benefits, and also tries to lead by example with the 20% he's paying on his health insurance premium. But that doesn't apply to the airport, author R.D. Smith points out. He says that he's waited in long lines at the Des Moines airport with both U.S. Senators Harkin and Grassley, and with Boswell, so we'll give Boswell some credit there. And he's also seen Frank County in line, but on 2 occasions, not once, but twice, he's seen the governor and his entourage escorted to the front of the checkpoint lines past his fellow Iowans who arrived at the airport early and were following the airport and TSA guidelines. The governor, with all his rhetoric on being a regular guy and making sacrifices, cannot be bothered by having to stand in line with the masses. Good letter, Mr. Smith. Very well done. Okay, we're going to move on to something a little bit less controversial, maybe. How's that?
That's
for an
great.
introduction?
Great.
Kelli Wulfekuhl is with me, and she's doing excellent work with the Harbor of Hope mission.
Yes, I am. I've been volunteering there for over a year now, and basically what we provide is a safe and healthy environment for gentlemen who are released from jail or prison, and we help them get back into society, finding a job, helping with resumes, teaching them basic health care skills, job interview skills. So
these are folks from coming out of county jails, where I assume they've been there for short periods of time.
Yes, Polk County Jail or the prison system.
So in some cases, I would guess in most cases, somebody in a short-term imprisonment situation in a jail would still have some infrastructure waiting for them.
Yes, hopefully.
In the community?
One requirement that we have is that they're going through some type of recovery program. So it's folks who have addiction issues.
And that's a lot of the prison population,
yes,
and a lot of the jail population.
Yes, it is.
So are most of the people you serve from Polk County?
Most of them.
Okay.
We do have, some out of state and out of county sometimes.
Okay. And which prisons in Iowa's prison system are the participants coming from?
Probably Oakdale and Anamosa.
Okay, so minimum security and the treatment facility.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So wow, yeah, Harbor of Hope. It's not a huge place.
No, it's not a huge place.
But
we have about 14 beds.
14 beds. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We plan to expand at some time.
And that's part of why you're here. Is you're trying to raise funds to refurbish and improve the facility.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have another location on Oakland in the historic River Bend district.
That's the one I'm most familiar with.
Yes. Yeah. And we're trying to apply for a grant for $500,000, and we want to refurbish it and open it as another option for men.
And so again, sometimes I wonder how the neighborhood responds to bringing former prisoners, inmates, into a neighborhood. Do you get any resistance from people in the neighborhood over that?
We have not gotten any resistance from the neighborhood. Harbor of Hope on Oakland has been there for centuries. And
no, centuries. That's an exaggeration.
a long time.
Okay.
Well,
probably 100 years?
1970.
110?
1970.
Okay, decades.
Yeah, decades.
Yeah. All right.
Not centuries, decades. And
Truth check.
yeah. And the place that we just purchased on Lion Street was also a halfway house before we purchased it.
Oh, was that the
Port
one
of
that,
Entry?
Okay, the one Alan Spencer ran.
Yes.
Okay. So that's been purchased. All right.
Yes.
All right. So and you have a good rapport with the neighborhood?
Oh,
with
yes.
People around about. Okay.
And the Riverbend Association.
Okay, because
yes.
sometimes that's a rub.
Yes,
And I know
that's true.
I know there's an ordinance that prevents
any new places coming
within a quarter mile of an existing
Yes.
one, but you can still expand.
We can expand. We cannot build like a new place or buy and run a new place.
Okay, so why and now some some people are going to wonder, okay, is this just another way to throw tax money at a problem, or is this mostly private donations that are working here?
It's a little bit of both. We've applied for grants, and we also would like to have donations, private donations, to help with the costs.
Yeah, but I imagine. I mean, I was playing devil's advocate a bit there because I would certainly agree that helping people make that transition is going to reduce the risk of them ending back up in
Yes,
prison,
definitely.
which is again a lot more expensive. I mean, I don't know what it costs to provide services at Harbor of Hope, but it's got to be a lot less expensive than the 25, 30, or more thousand we spend every year on an inmate in the Iowa prison system.
And it's a safe and healthy environment, unlike the prison setting.
Yeah, well, hopefully the prison setting is also a safe environment, even if it isn't the best environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been issues about that because of underfunding of staff.
That's
staffing the staffing levels being lower than what's needed to manage the inmate population. So, what's the strategy for raising the money needed, and how much are you targeting? How much are you trying to raise?
Well, we would like to raise $50,000, and that is to pay off the house that we purchased, and that way we would have funds available to put towards refurbishing the house on Oakland.
Okay.
Because it's going to take a lot of work.
Yeah.
The house has 10 bedrooms and 9 bathrooms. It's pretty big.
10 bedrooms?
Yes.
9 bathrooms?
Yes.
Wow.
It has over 6,000 square feet.
Okay. And again, one of the qualifications, I mean, one, you're coming out of a jail or prison. 2, you've got a substance abuse issue.
Yes.
But I imagine there may be people who are, so severely damaged and challenged that they may not be able to benefit from your program.
Yes.
So there's got to be some kind of screening committee, some kind of process for deciding who you take in?
Yes. We do a large screening process, and I'm part of that process. I'm the caseworker.
Okay.
And my job is strictly volunteer. I'm not a paid employee of the organization. All of us are volunteers helping.
So how did you get involved? What inspired you to be a part of this?
Well, I have been very active in the community. In the past, I've volunteered at various shelters throughout Polk County, and I met the executive director, Andy Anderson, at a function, and it sounded like a very interesting and strong organization. I went to a couple of board meetings and decided that I would like to be on the board and see if I could help them in any way with my skills.
Good.
And it was a good fit.
Good. All right.
And I genuinely care about the men, and I want them to succeed.
Yeah. Now there are a few other such places around the state. I know there's the Hanson House in Des Moines.
Yes.
I'm not sure what else there is around the state. I think there's a facility in Waterloo that I know of.
We have Bridges of Iowa too.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, and then there are official Department of Corrections facilities as well.
Yes.
One of the problems is that under Governor Culver, Republicans and Democrats authorized the construction of these facilities, which again is an investment. But the idea was that it would save money in the long term because it's a lot less expensive to manage people in these facilities than in a full, and again, we're talking about nonviolent, low risk offenders who still needed services, treatment, counseling. but could still work, So,
Yes.
so it's a lot more cost effective. But
Yes.
those facilities have not been staffed.
Right.
You're familiar with this problem too.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's probably dumping more of the burden on good people like yourself and organizations that are just trying to scrape by and
Yes.
come on talk shows like this in order to help raise money. So I mean, do you have any thoughts or feelings about the lack of follow through on the and I keep blanking. Is it Work Release Centers? Is that the right name? You know what I'm talking about at any rate.
It's a halfway house.
Yeah, they're in Waterloo, and
Yes,
there's like
yes.
4 or 5 of them around the state.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like Fort Des Moines.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then again, there's some new ones too, but
Yeah.
they're not adequately staffed.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So I mean, you guys ever discuss that or talk with state officials about doing a better job on their part to follow through on that?
We certainly have, and the discussion doesn't really go a whole long way.
Yeah. Ouch.
We're basically told there's no funding available. So.
Well, we never like to throw good money after bad, but if you've invested money that most people at the time thought was good and then
Yeah.
fail to appropriate the additional money that's needed to staff them, that's not throwing any money after good, and
Right.
it becomes bad. It becomes a waste, and
Yeah.
yeah. And again, it just leads to additional costs because of the high cost of incarceration.
Yes,
So,
that's true.
yeah. Well, I commend you for doing this, and it's a lofty goal, raising $50,000.
Yes.
I'd love to write you a check for half that amount right now, but my checkbook's my checkbook's on my bike, and I can't run and get it.
You can go get it. I'll wait.
You'll wait.
I'll wait.
I wish I had that kind of money to donate to you.
Yeah.
But do you have any other key philanthropists that are helping to?
Oh, yes.
Good.
We've gotten grants from various organizations and some big people.
Okay. So what if the
Around
little
Polk
people
County.
watching my show want to help? What do they do?
The little people in Polk County can donate $25, $50, anything they can spare.
Okay.
Every little bit helps.
And where's it go to?
It-
What's the name of the?
The name of the facility is Harbor of Hope, and it can be mailed to 803 Lion Street in Des Moines, 50309.
Yeah. Harbor of Hope at 803 Lion Street, 50309.
We also have a website, and you can make donations on there as well.
That's Harbor of Hope Mission?
Harbor of Hope Mission.
Okay. Kelli Wulfekuhl. There we go.
Wulfekuhl.
I want to change the spelling or the pronunciation of your last name. Thanks so much for joining us. Kelli is with Harbor of Hope Mission, folks, and they're doing good work in this community with people coming out of prison, people with substance abuse problems. And to their credit, they've got a good rapport with the neighborhoods in which they've been established for not centuries, but close to it, many decades. And
Yes.
if you'd like to help with their effort to expand what they're able to do for people, go to their website, Harbor Hope Mission, and you can contact Kelli there or one of the other people involved. And again, Kelli's work is entirely as a volunteer, so I definitely appreciate you taking the time to come in and talk. We've got a lot more to cover today, folks. Frank Meeink and Kristian Day are with us. We're going to be talking about Frank's book, Autobiography of a Recovering Skinhead. That thing is taking off. Frank has been doing interviews all across the country, even just this morning with NPR in Boston and in Philadelphia. Kristian Day is the director of Is This Heaven? We'll see the trailer from that when we come back. This is an important conversation in light of what happened at the Sikh temple in Wisconsin recently. And unfortunately, in many other incidences that may not be directly connected to that, but there's a theme running through this that we need to talk about. And I appreciate having Frank and Kristian out there doing this. We'll give them some time to tell us what's going on, and you're welcome to call in with your questions and comments too, folks. The number is 244-0077, 244-0077, or long distance, it's 855-244-0077. We'll be back in a minute on the Fallon Forum.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Open Sesame is Des Moines' premier Lebanese cafe. This month, Open Sesame is offering an unbeatable lunch special on Monday and Tuesdays. Mention the Fallon Forum when you order anything on Open Sesame's delicious lunch menu and get the second item for half price. That's right, buy one, get one for half price. Open Sesame's pita wraps, salads, soup, and mouth-watering Mideastern specialties will have you and your dining partner coming back again and again. Open Sesame at 313 East Locust Street in Des Moines' historic East Village.
I love driving to Newton to see the races.
Me too, but I only have to drive across town.
You live in Newton?
Yep, Newton's got small town charm and it's close to Des Moines. I love the safe, friendly neighborhoods and family-owned businesses. And Newton's wind energy industry is really taking off.
How'd you find your home?
Dan Kelley with First Choice Realty. And Dan helped me find my office too.
Next time, instead of just speeding by, I'll stop in and check out Newton.
Why don't you check out Newton? Call Dan Kelley at 641-521-9260 or Dan Kelley at mchsi.com.
Community CPA is the 15th largest CPA firm in Iowa, providing audit, tax, and accounting services. Community CPA specializes in international tax treaty and double taxation avoidance among countries and states. 9 dedicated, experienced, hardworking staff are the company's foundation, and their compassion towards every client is the secret behind Community CPA's success. At Community CPA, you can expect quality service year-round. Call 288-3188. Community CPA, 3816 Ingersoll. Experience the difference.
The dawn of a new era begins.
Feeling alone? God knows and He understands. Chat now with someone who cares at groundwire.net.
Well, hi, I'm Rob Spearman. I'm a broker-owner of RE/MAX Real Estate Concepts in Des Moines, Iowa. Give us a call if you're looking at buying or selling a home, or if you're having trouble on your mortgage payments or looking to purchase foreclosures. We have the agents to help you, experienced, outstanding agents. Our office number is 515-276-2872. Or if you'd like to look at homes, go to our website, homeconnectusa.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Technology. Oh my God. It's actually working pretty well. I have nothing to complain about. I want to thank Maddie Arrington, our producer. I want to thank Webcast One Live for providing the studio for this program. We're right across from Palmer's Deli in the Skywalk. When the weather is lousy, the crowds are thick. Today, I'm happy to say that I think a lot of people are outside. After me, of course, Bradshaw will be with us. Bradshaw comes on around 1:30. He's on from 1:30 to 2:30, and who knows what that crazy guy's going to talk about, but it should be interesting. So stay tuned for that. But we've got a lot of good conversations lined up for you in the meantime. Dan Kelley will be joining us. We're going to talk about the State Fair Parade. We're going to talk about a couple other issues. But in the meantime, Frank Meeink and Kristian Day are with me. Frank is the author of Autobiography of a Recovering Skinhead, and Kristian is the director of Is This Heaven? And these two dudes are very busy because this work, their work, is getting national attention. And I want to show the trailer from your film, Kristian. But let me start with introducing Frank to folks, and maybe some of you know Frank. He's been pretty vocal and active here locally, and has a fascinating story that is gaining interest across the country and is particularly relevant lately because of what happened in Wisconsin. Frank, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, so you've been busy this morning. You've been doing interviews with NPR.
Yeah, it's one of those things when bad things like this happen. I get very busy, and I've been on MSNBC and CNN all week. I was being interviewed, and so and then NPR, and just doing a lot of local radio and national radio right now. So
yeah. And the interest in talking to you now is based on your previous affiliation with the skinhead group in relevance to what happened in Wisconsin.
Yeah, in Oak Creek, and so that's what a lot of people want to know, like type of questions. I keep getting the same questions, like, do you think he did this because he thought they were Muslim? Do you think he did this for any other reason? And I say, no, he did it because they weren't white. I mean, it's really not, it's pretty cut and dry. I don't even think he knew what a Sikh was. I don't even think he knew, you know. He just knew they weren't white, they didn't look like him. He's in this movement, he sings about these racist lyrics in his music. He was a band, he was the lead singer of a band, so he made his words from his band come to life.
So these are the kind of people you used to hang out with?
These are the people I used to recruit. My job was to get people into this.
Wow.
So I would have been a guy that would have got him into this and helped him. I would have endorsed the hate, is what best way I would say.
And Kristian, the film that you are now directing is about Frankie's. I don't know the full story, but I know it's just I know Frank's in there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it came about because back in April, Frank, we were talking about the election and the rise in extreme right conservative and Christian right. And I'm not talking Republican, I'm not talking Democrat, I'm talking some pretty nasty stuff that we've been hearing. And he had mentioned to me, you know, I've always been a Christian, even when I was a skinhead. Past being a skinhead, I've always been a Christian, but I don't feel that this represents me as a person in any way. And he was talking about different things. He was reading about Buddhism, all these different religions, and I said, you know, there's a lot of places in Iowa that you know, you'd be surprised how many religions we have here in this state, how diverse it is. And I started to name off. We have the Hindu temple in Madrid. We have the Baha'i. We have
the first Muslim mosque in the nation, right?
It's the oldest,
longest standing.
Yeah, and the Mother Mosque. I mean, we have all these things right here, and you really don't think about it. I mean, I don't even think half of Iowa really recognizes these things. El Kader, Iowa. It's named after the George Washington of Algeria, a Muslim.
Yeah.
So
and we have Native American traditions as well, represented in several communities.
Exactly. So I said, you know, why don't we go on a road trip and I'll capture it, you know, and see if you can figure out where where is it that you belong? Where do you find your faith?
And that's what Is This Heaven is about.
Yes, there's a backstory about his life, which has not yet been really captured on film yet, about, you know, his life as a skinhead, but then now his journey on trying to figure out who he is spiritually.
Let's look at that trailer, Maddie. If you'd cue that, we'll take a look at this trailer from Is This Heaven.
When you read the stuff that Aryan Nations gives you, okay, and you have these pamphlets, and being a 13, 14-year-old kid, you're reading this stuff and you're thinking that you're unlocking something, that you now have this power to go out and debate about your beliefs, you know, and when you get that type of stuff and you're so proud of being a skinhead.
I decided to take this journey of faith and studying all faiths and religion. Even in my own backyard, I don't have to go all over the world to do this. We're America, and it's all here. And some people say it's a sin even to do that journey. I've heard it, and I don't believe that. I believe that God is okay with us going on this journey to see what else is out there, and hopefully find that at the heart of all of us, there's just humanity and being a human being.
They're going to say things like, this is all about fear and this is all about hate. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not about fear and it's not about hate. This is about love and this is about truth.
I look forward to seeing this film. Thank you for sharing that. The voice in the background saying it's not all about, I can't remember the exact quote, all about fear, all about hate.
It's not all about fear. It's not all about hate. It's about truth. It's about love.
And who is that?
That's Bob Vanderplaat.
Okay, so and now that
because I don't want to state this clearly. The same speeches I hear him give are the same speeches I heard back in the neo-Nazi movements. We're not about hate of the other races. We're about love of the white race. And his is the same speech, except for it's just about gays now. And so I have to tie that is Bob Vanderplaat, Rick Perry, Rick Santorum, all these names are people that made me cringe to even think I might be a Christian anymore. Really. And I know that's not Christianity. I know there's tons of great Christianity out there. I know there's more loving and caring people that are, that feeding starving children is way more important than worrying about if two men fall in love with each other. And so I had to separate myself, and I had to go on this journey because I believe that I don't believe that there's just one way to God. I just don't believe that. So I wanted to document this.
Yeah. So I mean, Kristian, do you expect any flack for having? I mean, and maybe he's not identified in the film. I don't know. Is he?
Well, that's kind of up in the air how we're going to identify that. I honestly don't really think we need to identify anyone specifically because this type of movement's in every state. You don't need to say this is one person causing this. It's more of a group, and every state has that group.
Right.
So even saying that, who it is, outside of Iowa, people aren't going to know who that is. And honestly, I hope he does hear it. I hope he does say something.
Do you think there will be any flack, any pushback for having the images of young Nazis in the background with Bob Vanderplaat talking?
I hope so. I hope so. Honestly, my last film, which was the Templeton Rye movie, there wasn't much controversy around it. It was more of just something people wanted to see, and it was fun. This is where I'm crossing that line with as far as is this politically correct to do? But I feel that movement is in a lot of ways misrepresenting a lot of people. I don't feel that the entire right wing is like that. I don't think so. I don't think Republicans are like that. But it falls under that far extreme right.
Yeah.
And it's very sad that that's where we are. This is 2012, and these civil rights issues are still on the news, and we're not thinking about our economy. We're not thinking about sustainability. We're not thinking about the future. We're thinking about who's sleeping with who and what's going on behind people's closed doors. And the rhetoric from the right is small government. But that's not small government in any way.
No, that's micromanaging somebody's personal decision in terms of who they are.
Right, exactly.
I'm not holding punches. They are trying to legislate law by hate and legislate a law that is for love by hate. And we need to call it out. People need to call this out anymore. This is, we're in a really dangerous time right now. Even with the shooting up in Oak Creek, and look at the right-wing blog. He wasn't a right-wing terrorist. Yes, he was. Stop. Let's start dealing with the rhetoric that is causing violence and hate, and start. We're Americans, and we're human beings for the most part. And the best thing that we have is that we have this gift of compassion. And I have to have compassion for the next human being I come into contact with. And we need to start practicing this, everybody. I can't wake up in the morning and decide, you know what, I'm going to go on Facebook today and I'm really just going to slam all the right-wing guys. Or I'm going to go fight the left wing because they're getting a little too wild. I have to wake up and say, I hope I can have compassion for another human being. Yeah. The first human being I come into contact with today, I hope I can show them complete compassion.
And I think it's important to challenge bigotry where you find it. And I was unexpectedly presented with a small opportunity myself last night. I was
heard about this. I want to hear about this.
I was one of the 3 state fair judges, which was an honor and a lot of fun. And we lucked out. It didn't rain on the parade. But I was not expecting, there's about 175 entries. And about halfway through, I decided to flip. I had a little bit of a spacer in between floats, so I'm flipping through, and I see the anti-gay marriage float in the parade.
Who did this? What
well,
group?
I'm sure Bob Vanderplaat's is one. I imagine the family leader, his group, that Chuck Hurley and Danny Carroll and other friends of mine, in fact, are involved with, I'm sure that's a big part of what's behind it. I haven't had a chance to research all the connections, but they're leading the charge against the justice because of his support for marriage equality. That is anti-gay. That is, I mean, the only reason that's on the ballot is because these people don't like the idea of gays marrying, and then it really is beyond that. They just don't like gays. And I know them well enough to know that's what's at the root of it. Right. So challenge it. I mean, when I saw that, I thought, you know, I am disappointed that the state fair allowed a float like that in the parade, and I had no trouble with anybody else. I mean, some of the floats were a little bit too militarized for my taste. Obviously, I'm not a fan of Governor Branstad, but he has a right to be in the parade. The Republicans actually, I gave the Republican float a higher grade than the Democratic float. Not by much, because they were more creative, all right? None of the politicians got very high grades for me, but the dance troops are great. But, you know...
The Republican dance troupe?
No Republican dance troupe. The Republicans don't dance. No, no, the dance troops were great. There are some other really clever floats, but a float that is at its core... and I know that people argue, well, it's not bigotry. Yeah, when you hate, despise, or want to deny civil rights to a class of people, that is bigotry. If somebody had been we had a black justice on the Supreme Court in Iowa, and somebody was organizing a campaign to get rid of him because he's a black justice, or because he supported a court decision that did something favorable for civil rights for blacks, we would be appalled.
Right.
We would be appalled. What if there's a Jewish person on the Supreme Court, and somebody was trying to get rid of that justice because he was Jewish or because he ruled favorably on an issue relevant to the Jewish community? We would be appalled, outraged. But because it's gays and because the gay and lesbian community has not yet risen to the full stature of equality, it's still okay to discriminate against them.
Still socially, in a way, and it's sad.
I gave that float 0.0.
Okay.
I said there's no points for bigotry, and I don't know whether I'm going to get any flack from that myself.
Was it a creative float?
No, it wasn't that creative. Yeah. It wasn't that good. It was just a billboard attached.
Didn't have no rainbows on it.
No rainbows. It was black and white. It was all black and white, and it was. I mean, and it was clearly anti-marriage, anti-gay marriage, and by extension, anti-gay.
Right. Mm-hmm. So Matt, now let's make this more human. There's a couple in the crowd, a same-sex couple with a child in the crowd of that parade yesterday, and that comes by. You know, like they want there to enjoy themselves, to be good family, good parents. And they get to see this horrible float go by that says, "You don't forget, we want to treat you as a second-class citizen, and you're horrible sinners," and whatever other rhetoric they want to use. I mean, that's when I start to look at it. Like, I look at it on a human. What compassion was those people just shown? None at all. In fact, they might have went home. They might have wiped a tear away. When they're just trying to be the best human beings they can on this earth by showing a child, maybe they adopt him, maybe however they have the child, they were trying to show that child a good life, bring him to a parade, and here comes a thing saying you ain't good enough. Yeah,
and some people argue with me, well, you're a strong supporter, Ed, of the First Amendment, and I am, and I think the public space ought to be a place where people can express their viewpoints, even if it's something I disagree with. If the Ku Klux Klan wants to organize a rally at a public park, I think it's their right to do so. But this is a parade organized by the state fair. It's not a government entity. The state fair is an event where you don't have to let everybody in. It's not a public forum. It's not a place where I think there's a substantial difference.
Yeah, and so next year, let's get a hold of the Klan and say, "Hey, Klan, why don't you guys try to submit a float? Let's see what happens. See if they accept it. See how
Well, I'm hoping that they'll. I mean, the state fair board are good people, and the fair is a great event, and I'm hoping they'll see the sense of not allowing that in the parade in the future.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll now, I did my part to make sure they didn't win the. They get no points for bigotry.
This morning, because I've kind of been going back and forth on this film, like where I'm at, because I've always kind of lived with I will be politically correct, and I have friends both Republican and Democrat. And you know, I didn't want to isolate myself. And this morning I was listening to an interview with Roger Corman, one of my favorite filmmakers of all time, big influence of mine. And he made a film back in the 60s called Intruder with his brother. And it was about segregation. And it was about a white man going down to a southern town, and integration had just started, and he's trying to stop it. And when he made that film, he was hoping that people would, you know, pick up on it and say, hey, this is great. Well, that was the only film he never made his money back on until 20 years later. And they were very disappointed with the world around him. And I kind of stopped, and Frank and I had this conversation yesterday that there is a part of me that's like, what am I doing? I'm digging myself a hole from the business, you know, with my career. But I think that the fact that we are worried about it and thinking about like what type of you know, rebuttal we're going to get, what type of negative feedback we're going to get, what's it going to do to us, you know, in this community. The fact that we're worried about that is telling me that that's what's wrong, is the fact that we're worried about that when we're really, in a lot of ways, and I just want to document his own journey. But what's the catalyst for this, you know? The fact that we're worried about it is what's really wrong. We shouldn't be worried about this, because this is what we're doing is a positive thing. Yeah, you know.
Because does Bob Vanderplaat worry about, or does that movement worry about spewing their hate? You know, and they don't. So I think us fighting it with compassion, because what we're doing in the documentary is we go on and we show compassion through all these other religions, including Christianity. Right. We go to all these other places who do nothing but show love and compassion for other human beings.
Certainly, religion has been used to do bad throughout history. Christianity certainly has. Certainly, I mean, I think probably every faith has.
Every faith has.
But there's lots of good in it too, and I think that's an important message. There are those who, you know, I was talking to somebody recently who told me a story about how they were basically accosted by neighbors. That there was such a strong effort to save them. That at one point they weren't even allowed to leave to go on vacation until they promised the neighbors that they were saved. You know, that's narrow-minded. And hopefully, I mean, you'll probably get some flack for becoming more broad-minded than the Christian faith that you grew up with. But I think it's commendable.
Well, and again, this is not an attack on Christianity, like we said before. Like the point of this is him going on this journey and finding all the positive that's out there to figure out where he is at spiritually. Like where does he fall into all of this? So
I really do feel something's missing. I mean, I'm a human being, and that's the way I've been feeling for the last 2 or 3 years. And whenever I start to turn back to my Christian faith, is where this right-wing Christian move, and by the way, like everyone else in the world that looks at this right-wing Christian movement in America, like think we're nuts. Like all my friends in Europe that I talk to all the time, they think it's absolutely nuts that we have this movement in America.
Well, I mean, it exists in Europe too, though.
But it's not as bad as it is
here. It's worse here than even in...
Yeah, because they're gun-toting Christian, you know, the guys at the Tea Party are not slamming the Tea Party, but you go to the rallies and I do clutch my gun in my Bible. You know, like really? Like guys talking about just because in the Bible Jesus says sell your cloak and buy a sword, they think that means stockpile weapons and that Jesus would walk around with a Glock. They really believe this.
It means grab a sword, I suppose, at best.
I mean, but it's I mean, this is the frame of mind that I think people are like, wow. Like especially, I mean, all my European friends, and they say, you know, the only place I really see any of this is down in Africa. And that's because we have the Christian right sending ministers over there helping legislate laws against gays.
Wow.
You know?
Well, Frank and Kristian, thanks so much for joining us. Frank Meeink, folks, and Kristian Day. Frank is the author of Autobiography of a Recovering Skinhead. Kristian Day is the director of Is This Heaven? And we saw the trailer from that today. When will that film be available for public consumption in its entirety?
We're hoping November, December. We're still on the road shooting. We just released the trailer yesterday. So I mean, we just wanted to get the buzz going on it, but we're still shooting right now. So
well, it's a good buzz, and it's good work you're doing, and it's timely. Unfortunately, there's still plenty of hatred out there, and this message is important. Thanks for coming onto the program, folks. When we come back, Dan Kelley will join us. Dan is the state representative from Newton. He'll be with us in just a few minutes here on the Fallon Forum.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day 1 of webcast1live.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait.
Howdy.
And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. Someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live. And thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together. And we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
I can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going, man.
If your computer's not running up to speed, don't waste any time with 1-800 numbers. Call your local professional at Mid-Iowa Computers. Known for excellent customer service, they can help you with all your computer needs, including 100% electronic malware removal. If you've just had enough of your computer or other electronic device, bring it in to Mid-Iowa Computers and they'll recycle it for free. For more information, visit midiowacomputers.com or call 515-210-8536 and get your computer fixed by someone you can trust.
With warm weather finally here, it's time to think about upgrading the efficiency of your furnace and air conditioner. Leonard Tinker Heating and Cooling has provided honest, competent service for over 20 years. Whether it's your home or business, for repair work or to install a more energy-efficient furnace or air conditioner, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422. That's 263-0422. For honest, competent heating and cooling service, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422.
Wow, some wedding.
Yeah, I've never seen a bride in coveralls.
Right, and skipping down the aisle to accordion music.
Not to mention the reception. That wedding cake was a freaking fruit cake.
It's your wedding. Don't leave anything to chance. Diana's Wedding Cakes. Using only the finest, freshest ingredients with free on-time delivery and setup. Choose one of Diana's custom designs or create your own. Call Diana's Wedding Cakes, 641-275-9279. That's 641-275-9279. Lucalin's Italian Grill in Ames offers one of Central Iowa's finest dining experiences. Lucalin's blends traditional Italian cuisine with American intuition, enticing hungry stomachs with a delectable spread of homemade pastas, steaks, and freshly flown-in seafood. Try the Cajun pasta, handmade lasagna, or any of Lucalin's traditional Italian dishes. So for a dining treat that's second to none, visit Lucalin's Italian Grill on Main Street in Ames.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back, folks. I've been a bad boy today. I have not been thanking all the great folks I need to thank, including the Progressive Coalition of Central Iowa, the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club, and Physicians for Social Responsibility. I want to thank our businesses as well, all the businesses that help support this program. We got a realtor here who supports this program. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you. You're welcome,
man. We've got Diana's Wedding Cakes, and we've got Gateway Market. I'm making a trip to Gateway today because I love their picket fence dairy products. Also, great cheese. The gal behind the wine counter, Abby. I know nothing about wine. I would drink vinegar, and it would be a big mistake, but I would probably not know I was doing it. She sets me right. Gateway Market, though, has pretty much everything you need in terms of natural, organic, and a lot of local stuff. They're Woodland and ML King in Des Moines. And once you get home and you realize you're your house is not as energy efficient as it should be, you should call Tim Reynolds with Reynolds Energy Solutions. I had Tim come over and do an audit on my home.
Yes.
Again, it costs you nothing because you pay $150, you get a $150 rebate, but what you learn is incredible. I could not believe how bad some of the leaks and cracks were. It's going to save a bunch of money to get those fixed up, and in some cases you actually get rebate money additional to that. What you get for the audit, you get some rebate money to help do some of the repair work. So check them out, ReynoldsEnergySolutions.com, and yeah, go for it. It's definitely worth the time and money. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ed.
You're wearing a different shirt today.
I am. I'm wearing this in honor of the start of the state fair. America Needs Farmers.
All right, good.
With the little logo that's on the Iowa Hawkeye helmets. I'm out of the closet there as a Hawkeye fan, so right. I went to the University of Iowa, so I'm a Hawk fan.
Okay,
and,
so,
I just thought this would be a good shirt to wear at the start of the fair. So
okay, all right, good, yeah. And were you at the State Fair Parade yesterday?
No, I was not, but I hear you were. So.
I was there and I had a good time.
I've been to the State Fair Parade several times, but last night I was up to my elbows in stamps and mailing out flyers and getting mailings ready for the campaign. So,
yes, because you have an opponent.
Yes.
So people are wondering why you're wasting your time coming into this little hillbilly show here when you could be out campaigning and knocking on doors.
Well, I know that we have some local folks in Newton and Jasper County that watch the show, and
your opponent is probably
coming in
every appearance on this show.
Well, that's fine. This is a good show. So.
We just saw your coworker Kevin McCarthy.
Yes, he was just passing by. He had a candidate with him, and
we need to get him into this
just happened
sometime.
To walk by the window there. That was really great.
I've invited him on the show before, but no luck yet.
Well, I'll work on it.
All right, good.
Okay.
So what else is going on in your world? I know you're doing work with the food bank, right?
Well, I'm not really doing work with the food bank, but they held a special evening on Tuesday night where they had the grand opening of this photography art show that they're hosting throughout, I believe, the rest of the month. And we'll have to get the details on that. And it is a photo show where you see a photograph of someone who has experienced hunger in their life. Just a wide variety of people from all different backgrounds, all different ethnicities, all different social groups. Just very interesting mix of people.
I was hungry once as a legislator. We worked till 3 in the morning in the kitchen and we closed for hours.
This isn't this type of hunger.
Okay,
this is the hunger that goes on and on and on.
Serious stuff.
Families that are having a hard time feeding themselves and this sort of thing. And there's a lot of stigma associated with hunger. And this art show really takes that to heart and really tells that message that those stigmas are not true. Many people who experience hunger have worked hard all their lives.
Yeah.
And also, in addition to the photo, there is a headphone at each station, and you can hear a 5-minute story from that person in the photo about how hunger affected their lives. Some of them are still hungry, and that's, to me, that's the most important message that I got out of it.
So, and this is maybe a tangent to that story, but the food bank was a political issue this year.
Yes. Yes.
And you're probably closer to it than I am, but if memory serves, Governor Branstad vetoed a bipartisan proposal to appropriate. Was it $500,000?
Yeah,
it was food banks across the country, across the state.
Across the state, and the legislature, frankly, members in both parties in the House were very proud to get that passed, and I'm sure they were in the Senate as well.
500,000, correct?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm almost certain it was 500,000, and I was shocked that it was vetoed, and I know that a lot of my colleagues were very surprised as well. We did not expect that.
Some of the Republicans surprised as well?
I've not talked any specifically about that, but the general thought was that we were surprised that happened. Often you go into the closing of a session or the end of the session, and there's a few things you think might get a veto. Not necessarily entire bills sometimes, but line items and segments of the bills. But
and the governor can only veto. You can only line item veto an appropriations bill, a bill dealing with money.
Right.
He can't go into a statutory change that doesn't deal with money and veto parts he doesn't.
Yes,
like.
I'm glad you explained that in detail. But nobody expected this that I've talked to, and it's very disappointing. And we'll see if we can't go back at it next session and maybe get some of that funding for the food banks. But I'll tell you, it sounds like they get great support from our local businesses here in Iowa. They get great support from volunteers, and it's a wonderful feeling to go down there and donate a bag of groceries. Feel like you're doing something.
I mean, in these tough economic times, hunger is a growing issue. And I remember the governor's veto message, if I remember this correctly, stated that he felt that he didn't want to send the message that the food bank shouldn't be supported by local people, by donations.
Yeah.
And I just think that is such a lame excuse. That's not. I don't understand. It just seems to me that the governor has no empathy for the poor. He just doesn't seem to understand issues confronting people who find themselves challenged by either a shortage of food or unemployment or loss of a home, foreclosure. I mean, he just seems to be so out of touch with anything that affects poor and working people who are struggling.
Well, it would be good for the governor and everyone else out there to take a look at this art display at the food bank. It really sends a message home that these are real people. And they don't deserve this. No one deserves hunger.
I had a Dan Kelley first this week. That was I've never heard you speak at a public rally before.
I realized that when I was speaking, I was proud that you were in the audience.
Yeah,
that was very nice of you to come.
Hiroshima Nagasaki commemoration.
Yes,
that's an annual event that remembers the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the only time nuclear weapons have ever been used. And the theme this year was to connect that with the nuclear power challenges
in Fukushima,
facing us in the wake of Fukushima.
Yeah, I was really honored to be invited to speak at that event. And last session, I sponsored a bill that basically stated if we, any new nuclear power plant that we may build in the state of Iowa, and hopefully we never build another nuclear power plant in the state of Iowa, but any new facility, there would be no license awarded if it turns out that the goal is to develop weapons-grade plutonium, and I realize that there's no one actually thinking about doing that, but I put
Who knows?
Well, who knows? We can't predict the future, but I put that bill together because I thought, there hasn't been any anti-nuclear weapon legislation in the Iowa legislature for quite some time. I don't know of any.
There was when I was in office. It was a resolution I offered.
I thought it was time that we take that mantle up again. Nuclear weapons humanity needs to move away from it.
And I don't have the story in front of me, but I saw where the Nuclear Regulatory Commission has taken some action that could put the kibosh on further development of nuclear power plants. I think this is just out in today's news. It just flashed across Twitter today, and I glanced at it and.
Well, one of the things I said on Monday night is that Fukushima is not just a tragedy for Japan, it's a red flag for the entire world. Yeah. And Europe is taking notice, Asia is taking notice, and we need to take notice as well.
Dan, thanks for joining us. So, folks, Dan Kelley, the Democratic State Rep from Newton, and he'll be back maybe next week? In between or the following week?
The following week.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I know you've got a busy campaign schedule going as well. Thanks for joining us. I also want to thank Proof Restaurant. We had lunch at Proof last week.
We did.
Proof is at 13th and Locust, and have a great lunch menu, but also a fantastic Thursday, Friday evening dinner special going on. I've heard glowing reports. I have not yet made it there. Full confession, I have not yet made it there for dinner, but I've heard tremendous things, including one person saying that it was the best dining experience they've had in Des Moines. And this wasn't just somebody passing through Des Moines, somebody who knows Des Moines and knows dining. So Proof Restaurant, helping to make Des Moines the culinary and cultural capital of the continent. How's that for a bunch of alliteration? Anyway, folks, thanks to all the individuals as well who help make this program possible. And you can be one of those individuals by going to fallonforum.com and clicking on support and either sending us a check or, better yet, signing up for a monthly donation. We appreciate it. It's necessary. This program is not funded like the right-wing shows are. We have to scrap and count on local businesses, nonprofits that believe in what we're doing, and individuals like yourself. So, folks, I hope you'll do that. I hope you'll stay tuned for Bradshaw at 1:30, and I hope you'll join me tomorrow. We've got Ira Kurzban joining us. He's an immigration attorney. He's going to be in Des Moines for a fundraiser for Kristi Vilsack, but we're going to talk about immigration with him. We're also going to talk about the GOP's involvement with the anti-David Wiggins Justice of the Supreme Court campaign. And we'll also meet a young entrepreneur, Emily Svek, with a business that is turning heads called Body by Svek. So stay tuned for us back tomorrow, folks, at the same time on the Fallon Forum.